dabbled in with trying some fruit along with my carnivore diet for about, I'd say I did it for about 11 months and started to have some major joint pain. And so decided to cut it out completely. And all my joint pain went away. I was like a chicken and salad and just carbs all day long. I was miserable because I was constantly having blood sugar drops. And so I'd get to practice and be like, oh no, I don't feel good, and try to cram a granola bar down my throat just to get me through practice. Oh, you lost your period. That's just because you're really active, and that's okay. But now I think finally this is not normal. It's taking a massive hit on your hormones, and you're obviously energy deficient. You're not getting proper nutrition. You're nutrient deficient. I've noticed with carnivore, my hormones have never been so balanced.
Welcome. We have Christina Elder here today. My voice is a little raspy. I apologize. I was getting choked a lot in jiu-jitsu and affects the voice. So I don't have a cold or anything like that. But anyway, and fortunately, the power has been restored at my house. If you guys were here yesterday, the power went out in the house. So we got it back up. So anyway, Christina, it's good to have you again. You are a very accomplished runner. I've been watching you up at the World Championships and doing some of that stuff. So that's exciting to have you back here. So I guess for those that hadn't met you before, would you mind just giving us a brief background of who you are, what you do?
Absolutely. It's wonderful being back, Dr. Baker. I just love what Revero's doing and following everything within the company. My name is Christina Elder, and I wear a lot of hats. I'm a mom of 3. I'm a teacher and a coach, and I've been a teacher and a coach for 10 years, almost 11 years now. I'm a wife and currently a semi-professional athlete running in kind of the masters circuit. So my age group is 35 to 39. I was fortunate enough to be able to travel to the World Championships back in March and came home with an individual bronze medal in the 800 meters and a gold medal in the 4x200 meter relay. So it was wonderful. That was just a couple months ago, and I'm still training, still running. I leave for nationals in 2 days, and that'll be the end of my outdoor season.
How long have you been a track and field athlete? How long have you been running? 100 is people that know track is one of the worst. A lot of people say it's like the most horrible distance to run because it's just miserable. My daughter's a 400 meter runner. She doesn't want to run 800. She says, no, I'm not doing that.
Yep. Very smart. Yeah. I ran the 400 in college. That was my specialty in college. I actually am relatively new to the sport in comparison to a lot of other master athletes. So I was a soccer player all through high school, and in the state of Nebraska, you can't do soccer and track. They're in the same season. So I chose soccer and then went to college on a soccer scholarship. And as I was playing soccer in college, the track coach actually asked me to try track because he would come to the soccer games and noticed my speed. So I was like, yeah, sure, because they were different seasons. So I gave it a go, and it ended up being my better sport, and ended up graduating a 2-time All-American in the 400 meter dash in college. So did that and came back home and settled down, got a job and had kids. So took about a 10-year break from the sport. Decided to go back because I'm one of those people that when I'm exercising, I'd rather be training for something, still have those competitive vibes. So decided, I'm like, why not keep competing and try to see what my body can do, see how fast I can be. Switched up my events a little bit, focused on the 800 and the 1500 for a while. Now I'm actually dipping back down into the 400. So I'll be more 400, 800. Yep.
And just for maybe some people, because a lot of people have no idea what's a good 400 time and what there's like clueless. But what kind of times are you typically hitting in these events?
So I just started training for the 400 again right after Indoor Worlds, and I've hit 59.1, which is pretty competitive for a masters athlete. Breaking 60 is a pretty big deal in the masters realm. So that's going well. I'm hoping I can get back into the 57s. Range would make me really competitive on the world stage. So hopefully by next summer, I'm back down in that 57. I won my bronze medal in the 800 with a 218.
Okay. All right. Very nice. And I guess we'll talk a little bit about nutrition, because your nutritional plan isn't the typical nutritional plan. So how did you come up with that? How's it been affecting you? I guess let's delve into that a little bit.
Yeah. The carnivore diet has been the best thing ever for my performances. It was funny because last summer, I dabbled in with trying some fruit along with my carnivore diet for about, I'd say I did it for about 11 months and started to have some major joint pain last November. And so decided to cut it out completely. And all my joint pain went away. So I haven't had a piece of fruit now in 8 months, 9 months. So I'm thriving purely on a carnivore diet right now. And I feel the best I've ever had. So it was good to experiment and kind of throw some fruit back in and just see what it did, and found out it was very negative for me. So I did not respond well to it. And honestly, my times are faster this year than they were last year when I was eating fruit. So
interesting. Yeah. Hats off for trying, because I think this is what it's about, trying to see what works for you. But for some people, it may work. For other people, it's not the right move. But, and as somebody who's an athlete, you tend to be pretty in tune to how your body's working, because, it's objective. How fast you can run 400 is pretty damn objective. And it's like, there's a night. That's one of the things I like about athletics, particularly things like where they're very objective. So let's talk about, as an athlete, how much food do you eat? How frequently do you eat it? How do you pair it with your training schedule? A lot of people ask me, what should I eat right before training? Should I eat after training? How do you do that?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's really different every day, and it depends on what I'm doing for training that day. That's the cool thing about the carnivore diet, is I feel like my body tells me when I need to eat. So I don't really have to be like, okay, at 8 o'clock, I'm going to eat this. And it's very just based off of what I feel like I need. Yesterday, for example, I just had some really explosive sprints. So I had a couple of 60-meter sprints with 7-minute recoveries. And then I had 200 meters at 800 pace. So I had a little bit of a lactic workout, some short sprints. I didn't eat a thing beforehand. So I did that workout at 10 a.m. And I just honestly I wasn't hungry beforehand. So I went and sprinted, felt wonderful, didn't need any food, came home. And one thing I'm very intentional about is, as soon as my workout is done, whether that's in the weight room, like whether I lifted or whether I was sprinting or whatever I was doing, I do come home and immediately take in protein. So I use Equip's Prime Protein. And that's usually a really fast thing for me to do right after a session. And so I'll mix that with some raw milk and just drink that. So that's what I did right after a workout. And then once I get really hungry, which is usually 30 minutes, 45 minutes after I train, I'll do a bigger meal of 4 or 5 eggs or beef on the side, or just eggs. It just depends on the day. But usually my biggest meal is always in the evening with my family. So that's where I'll eat like a whole steak, or I'll eat 3 hamburger patties with some eggs on the side. That's usually my largest meal. Otherwise, I just listen to my body. Honestly, when it tells me that it's hungry, I eat.
How do you feel? You can even compare this maybe back to when you're in college, as far as body composition, strength, muscularity, things like that. Have you noticed a difference? And what did you eat in college?
Oh man. I know we talked about this on our last podcast, but it was bad. I thought I was doing the right thing eating. I was like a chicken and salad and just carbs all day long, just constantly eating bagels, crackers, granola bars, anything that would keep me rolling. And I was miserable because I was constantly having blood sugar drops. And so I'd get to practice and be like, oh no, I don't feel good, and try to cram a granola bar down my throat just to get me through practice. I was just miserable. Whereas now I could literally go into a workout fasted. So it's such a different change, but I was hungry all the time in college, just constantly. And I think that was just riding those blood sugar waves. But in terms of body composition, so I was lifting probably 4 times a week in college as a specific sprinter. So it was 400 meter, 200 meter, trying to put on muscle, but it was a lot harder for me to put muscle on. I noticed in college, I just thought, that's the way my body is. I'm just not going to put on a lot of muscle. Whereas now I'm strength training 2 times a week, sprinting every day, but strength training 2 times a week. And I just easily put muscle on. It's just so easy. I don't even have to, I'm not intentionally trying to put it on. I'm just building muscle. And obviously, I'm at 35 years old. That's pretty incredible that I can put on muscle easier now than I did when I was 22.
Yeah. And that just shows the power of proper nutrition for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I noticed you said when you're running your 60-meter sprints, recovery period was 7 minutes, which a lot of people say, that doesn't seem like it's very hard because you're resting all the time. But in truth be told, in order to hit those high intensities, you need adequate recovery. And I see a lot of people that do 100-meter sprints with 10 minutes rest in between and things like that. Is that kind of been the sort of, I don't know if it's always been that way, or is that kind of a new way of training for these types of events?
I feel like there's been a lot more research that has come out about it. It's that less is more approach. Obviously with the 400 and the 800, I have to put in some really hard days. There's days where I have 7 300-meter efforts. And those days are horrible. Those are the acid bath, the lactic acid baths that are just tough. And you have to put those days in. But when I'm working on, my coach kind of separates it into days. So if it's specific speed, because being a 400, 800 athlete, you have to be really fast too. And so I got to work just top end speed. So on top end speed days, my recoveries are always really long. Yeah, they're 6 to 7 minutes full recovery, which you're standing there, oh, like I want to go again. Like you feel like you're recovered, but really your system isn't. And so I have those full recoveries with really all out efforts. There's a lot of science backing. If you want to get good quality reps every time, like if I'm doing 4 by 60 meters, if each 60 meter is going to be high quality, the rest needs to be a full recovery between each one. And then I have my days, obviously, where I'm trying to work more lactic system. And so I have 300-meter repeats and my rest is maybe only 2 minutes. And those are horrible days, but I'm also not running top end speed on those. I'm running my 400 pace, 800 pace on those.
Yeah, it still sounds horrible. 400-meter sprint, relatively all out. You feel pretty. My driveway at my house is just over 300 meters, and I run that sometimes. It's got a big hill, so it's a little challenging, but that sucks. Let me ask you about as far as being a mom and trying to juggle it, because I know that's got to be a lot of work for you. How are you able to? How much time do you have to dedicate to train to be able to compete at the world level? How much hours a week would you say?
You know what? It's not as much as what people think. And that's always the interesting discussion, because people will see my body composition and they automatically think I train 3 hours every day. I'm like, no, I dedicate a solid hour every day to my training, but really my body composition is really solely the carnivore diet. Truly, obviously I work hard, but I'm training maybe an hour. So my sessions on the track are no more than an hour long. My longer days he might throw in an aerobic session in there once in a while, just for the 800 meters. You got to have some aerobic strength. And so I'll have some longer reps of 800-meter repeats or something at a slower pace. Those are maybe my longer days. My recovery runs or my just going out on a run is only 20 minutes. So for me as an athlete, less is more is huge for me. I thrive so much more on high quality versus volume. And so generally my coach it's okay, we're doing 50 miles in a week. I can't, my body shuts down and it ruins I feel like those fast twitch muscle fibers. If I show up on a speed day and I've done a ton of volume, I'm just not fast. I'm not poppy. I'm not fast. I'm not explosive. So for me, I have 3 workouts in a week that are high quality that last an hour. Might be some intervals or some sprints, whatever the workout is for the day. And then in between those workouts is generally a recovery run. So it's a 20-minute recovery run just to shake everything out. When I strength train, my strength coach has me, it's about a 45-minute lift. So I heavy deadlift, heavy front squat, and then do accessory work as well. And that's about 45 minutes. So on a day where I have a workout and a lift, I'm maybe dedicating 2 hours, maybe a little less, but that's only 2 times a week. So it's easy to juggle. Luckily, I have a really supportive husband that's like, all right, you got to go train, you get your training in, and it's just a part of my day. And I'll fit it in wherever I can fit it in. It just is a priority and I'm consistent with it. And that's where I've seen success, is just being consistent. There's things that happen, like my kids get sick and I have to make adjustments, but we'll just push workouts to different days, or I'll do it earlier in the morning, whatever I need to do to fit it in. But generally, it's just, I used to go spend an hour at the gym just working out, and now I'm spending an hour training, same amount of time.
Yeah, there's some, I guess, a lot of particularly for sprinters, you're getting back into the sprint distances, avoiding the slow junk miles. Is that a pretty fair assessment? Because a lot of people for a long time were assessed with, I'm going to do I'm training for the 800, so I'm going to go run 2 miles. And that's pretty much counterproductive, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah. He doesn't even have me. I don't even track my mileage at all. And so we've really gotten away, because I feel like a lot of runners will get so ingrained in, I have to hit 40 miles this week. When it's, okay, what does that mean though? What is the quality of that? And so for me, my recovery runs are just based on time. And so maybe there's a day where my legs are just taxed. Like the day before I did repeat 300s and I'm just absolutely gassed the next day. And so my recovery run might be like a 10-minute mile pace just because my legs are so tired, but I'm not really paying attention to that. I'm just going on feel like, all right, I got to go out on a 20-minute shakeout. I don't really care what pace I'm running. I just listen to my body. And then there might be one day where I feel super good and I'm running 740 pace for 20 minutes. So I just purely base it off of how I'm feeling. And those runs, they're not for mileage purposes. They're more for recovering the body to help the recovery process.
How do you said when you're doing like 60s, you're pretty much all out sprint. How do you protect yourself from injury, pulling a hamstring or something like that? Because I see a lot of sprinters don't often hit 100%. They sometimes dial it back just a little bit to prevent that. Do you worry about that at all?
I used to. I'm very intentional about my warm-ups, but that's another thing that I've told people where this diet has been so beneficial for me. Even in college, I used to roll out of bed and everything would hurt. Like my joints would hurt. Just being a sprinter, you're just pounding your joints. Everything used to hurt. My feet used to hurt all the time. And now I'll roll out of bed with no aches and pains ever. And I haven't been injured in 2 years. And the last injury I had was just a freak thing, but I'm really intentional. Obviously, strength training is huge for that. I'm strong, which makes me more resilient. My diet is huge for recovery. So I feel like truly every day I fully recover and my joints just feel great. And I'm really intentional about my warm-ups. And I do a lot of running drills that help really facilitate and initiate proper running form is really huge too. So I do feel like on a heavy sprint day, like a 60 meter at 95%, my warm up is like 30 minutes. My warm up is half the workout just to get my body prepped and ready to go for a full on sprint. And I feel like too, with age and maturity as a master's athlete, I know my body really well. And so I can tell if something like my hamstring or my quad, like something's going on, it's just not feeling it that day, then I might tell my coach, hey, we need to move sprint day. I feel like I can't get to 95%. That doesn't happen very often, but I feel like with maturity, I just know my body and I can tell when you can't sprint that day.
Yeah, fair enough. Because I've noticed that sometimes I'll do a workout and I'm like, I got to shut this one down. Yep. Every once in a while, you just feel something that doesn't feel right. Let me go back to, you did this experiment where you brought fruit back in for a while. Was there any benefit? Did you notice like, hey, my explosivity got better, I got more power for a period of time, or was it just didn't make much difference and ultimately you had, like you said, more sore joints? What kept you doing it for 11 months?
The only thing that kind of kept me going is I like the taste of fruit. And so it was like something exciting to put back in my diet. I don't think I noticed any benefit in terms of athletics because I feel more explosive now after being off fruit and off carbs for 8 months or so. I'm deadlifting heavier. I'm front squatting heavier than I was when I was eating fruit. And just in sprint wise, I'm getting faster. So honestly, I didn't see any benefit to it at all.
Interesting. Yeah. And again, I'm similar. I tried years ago when I was on a ketogenic diet. I would carb load and I didn't see much. It didn't really seem to help. It messed my gut up and I just didn't like it. So
yeah, I gained weight too. I gained probably 3 pounds. And as soon as I cut the fruit out, 2 weeks, I had lost the 3 pounds, 2 weeks. So I just felt like just bloated and I just felt slow and sluggish. And yeah, it was not, and obviously the joint pain. So I really saw no benefit to it.
Yeah. And as a runner, or, as a sprinter, excessive weight, it's not muscle. It's not helping you. It's slowing you down, basically.
Exactly.
So when you do your training, are you by yourself? Do you have training partners? Do you have anybody who pushes you or is it all just I'm by myself?
I am solo right now. It's tough in this age group to really find training partners. We're all spread out throughout the country. Like we keep in contact, a lot of us, Cynthia, we keep in contact on workouts and stuff like that and check in with each other. I wish I lived in Hawaii so I could run with her every day, but yeah, it's super hard to find training partners. But at first that was tough for me getting back into the sport because I was used to a team in college and having people to run with. But honestly, now I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying the alone time. And it's because as a mom and a teacher, I'm around people all the time. And so when I'm training, it's just, I can just focus on me. It's just quiet. It's out on the track. It's quiet. It's honestly my escape. And there's tough days, like doing 300 repeats by yourself is not super fun, but I've become really disciplined in hitting my splits and doing a lot of positive self-talk to get myself going. So I haven't really noticed the need for a training partner, and I'm enjoying my alone time.
I'm just at it for technical aspect. When you run out there, you have a stopwatch in your hand, you just run with it. And how do you time yourself? Is that what you do?
Yep. For my longer repetitions, like 300s, 400s, 5 and 600s, I'll wear just like my watch and get my split that way. But if it's something really short and fast and I have to know the exact 10th and 100th of the second, I will actually hold a stopwatch in my hand and click it that way. It's not ideal. I wish my coach could be there. He is a head coach in Kansas. And so he writes all my stuff. I send him videos and everything. And it works perfectly fine. I'm improving. It'd be nice to have him there sometimes, but it just doesn't work out that way. But I just get my splits and try to get videos of things when I can. And it's been working out.
How do you, in Nebraska, like at summertime, obviously it's probably pretty hot, but how do you deal with the winters in there? Are you training indoors or how do you do that?
Yeah, we've been the last 2 winters, we haven't gotten a lot of snow. So I just tough it out. And there's been days where I've been out on that outdoor track and it's 16 degrees outside. And it's tough when you're sprinting because you have to keep your body warm and you have 7-minute rests. You're like, where do I go to keep my body warm? And so I'll huddle under a blanket or something. And it is not ideal. But there's also an indoor facility that was just built 2 years ago in Omaha, and they've been so kind to let me go train in there. So I trained in there quite a bit last winter. So I'll do the same thing this winter, definitely when it comes to the shorter, faster stuff where I need to stay warm. But if it's longer reps, I don't mind doing it outside in the cold. If my rests are short, it's just those long rests where I'm like, oh, I need to be inside somewhere as it gets pretty cold.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Goodness. Okay, what about you're on this crazy carnivore diet? You're probably one of very few among the people you run into at competition. Anybody ever like talk to you about that, or does it ever come up? Does everybody say, "Hey, what are you doing?" Or obviously, because like you said, I'm Cynthia Montaloni. I've interviewed her. I've actually met her in Hawaii. What do you run into on the circuit? Do you see anybody else? What are you doing with your food, or does it not come up?
Yeah, I have a lot of people that kind of ask me about it. We actually had Cynthia. It's a good friend of Cynthia's too. She works with Cynthia, but her name's Sue Patterson McDonald, and she was just a pure vegetarian for years. And Cynthia finally convinced her to start eating red meat. So she started eating red meat a couple months before Worlds and ended up I think she's broken 3 world records now for the 60 age group and feels great, and just incorporating meat back into her diet. And that was her big change. So she eats red meat every day now. So we have people within definitely in Team USA, they're very aware of Cynthia and I's diet just because we all follow each other on social media. And some of them are like, that's crazy. You don't eat any vegetables or anything. And just, nope, don't need them. And so people do ask about it and they're curious about it. Now I have some international friends too that will ask, you don't eat any carbohydrates? And no, don't need them. And they'll just ask and prod about it. So I'll tell them how I'm feeling. And I think a lot of the times they're just, wow, I don't know if they feel like they couldn't do that. But I definitely think the awareness of, hey, maybe you don't need carbohydrates to be a world level athlete is opening people's eyes to that, which is really cool. So we're hoping to keep getting that information out there within the running community, because it's been a very carb heavy community for a long time.
Yeah, it's interesting. And the recent data came out, particularly with endurance athletes, so maybe longer distance than you, but seeing that a lot of those actually have higher rates of heart disease than even non-athletic people. And maybe it has to do with the dietary preferences, who knows? But so where do you get your meat from? Is there anybody that's like helping you out or saying, hey, we'd like to sponsor you or anything like that? Has that happened yet?
Oh, I'm trying. I actually just did a podcast yesterday with Farm Focused, which is a local company here in Nebraska. And they work with a lot of the cattle ranchers and just the whole ag community. So I'm really trying to put feelers out there because I really want to be able to work with ranchers just one-on-one and promote their products, because I haven't really gotten anything going. And the Nebraska Beef Council and I have talked. And so I'm hoping to do some lectures and stuff at colleges, meet with different college athletes and talk about the importance of iron and red meat in the diet. So we'll really have some of that stuff that's hopefully going to get started here in the fall to go around and spread awareness on red meat and the good benefits of that. But I have not partnered with any ranchers, and I really want to.
Hopefully someone will listen to this will step up, because I think it's important, particularly somebody who's using their product to show it up. When you were in college, and this is a pretty known phenomenon, there's a female athlete triad of things. They have amenorrhea, they have anemia, they often have stress fractures. Did you run into much of that when you were, maybe not personally, but know people within the track and field community that were suffering from some of those things? And how do you feel that diet, does diet that you're on now, you seem to prevent that, or do you think it does?
Oh, 100%. I was lucky and never really experienced female athlete triad. Now they've actually renamed it. Now it's called RED-S. So relative energy deficiency syndrome, I believe is what it's called. So luckily there's more information being pumped out, because when I was in college, no one talked about it. It was more of, oh, you lost your period. That's just because you're really active, and that's okay. It was very even doctors were like, oh, what happens? But now I think finally this is not normal. It's taking a massive hit on your hormones, and you're obviously energy deficient. You're not getting proper nutrition. You're nutrient deficient. And so I've noticed with carnivore, my hormones have never been so balanced, and I feel so great. I did a whole pregnancy carnivore. My third child was a carnivore pregnancy. So I've never felt better. And so I'm really trying to I'm seeing just in coaching high school athletes, we have girls all the time. Their iron levels are super low. They're getting stress fractures definitely at their lower leg, and their feet is where you see a lot of runners. You're seeing stress fractures constantly happen in the feet and the lower leg. So you're seeing that osteopenia and things from just not eating properly. And because I've talked to a lot of college athletes and high school athletes, just because I run in a lot of college meets, and they're eating yogurt and chicken and salads and fruit and bread. That is their diet, and they're not getting enough protein. I would say 95% of the girls that I talk to that are struggling with injuries, their protein is so low. It's unbelievable. They're getting 90 grams of protein on a 130-pound frame. And so they're not eating enough protein, and the protein that they are eating is super lean. And so I think their hormones are super imbalanced. But no, it's a massive problem. And that's one thing I'm really determined to get out there and spread awareness. And if I can get into some of these colleges and talk to the female athletes and raise awareness of, I think there's still that dogma of red meat's bad for me. I can't eat it, and I want to be a healthy athlete. And so their intentions are good. They're not trying to starve themselves, but really they're super nutrient deficient because they're not eating any red meat, and they're eating salads and yogurt and chicken, and that's it.
Yeah, good for you. And good for you for being an example for that. What about hydration and stuff like that? I'm a guy that I work out all the time. I sweat a lot. I usually replace it with fluid and electrolytes. Do you have to deal with that at all?
Yes. I would say 2 years ago, I was just drinking water, and I was salting my food, but I wasn't taking in any extra electrolytes. And I started to notice I would get really bad side cramps while I was sprinting. And this is when I was still carnivore. And so I was like, why is this happening? Why do I keep getting side cramps? I never used to get cramps. And so finally I started just eating salt, putting Redmond's real salt straight in my mouth and eating it. And that resolved it. And now I'll either use Element or Relight, and I'll add it to my water. Definitely in the summer. Sometimes I'll do 2 servings of it in the summer, and then just water the rest of the day, or sometimes I only need 1. It just depends on, I just listen to my body too. I don't just drink water all day. I drink when I'm thirsty. And so I just listen. But in the summer, I do notice my intake is much higher, and I have to get electrolytes in. Otherwise I deal with those side cramps really bad. But that as soon as I put Element in my water, I haven't had one since. So
why the decision to move from 800 meters to the shorter 400, 200? Are you feeling more powerful? Is that you just feel like you're getting stronger? Or I can see why you'd want to run the shorter distances. Maybe not as painful, but are you finding that you're going to be more competitive at those distances because of maybe you're getting stronger perhaps?
Yes. So that's a great question. when I came out of having my children. So my son is almost 4, and I was running like slower stuff when I was pregnant just because I couldn't really sprint well. And so I was doing a lot more aerobic training throughout my pregnancies. And so coming off of my pregnancy, I felt like it was more of a natural move to go to the mile in the 1500. And then the 800, I still had enough speed there to cover ground in the 8, but that 1500 was a sweet spot for a while. And I would say within this last year, right about when I cut fruit out and been working with my strength coach for over a year as well. And I've just been getting stronger in the weight room. I think those fast twitch muscle fibers, which are just natural for me, I was a sprinter in college. I think they just started coming back in more full force. And so what I started to notice was the mile was just hard. It was really hard for me. I would get through 800 meters to even 1,000 meters in, and my legs would just stop. Like they just stopped working. And that first half of the race would feel so easy. Oh yeah, we're going pretty slow. And then I would just hit a wall at 1K. And I honestly think it's because my coach he loves training speed and truly believes that speed is going to help. And it's where I'm going to thrive. And so the more speed work I was doing, those muscle fibers were coming back and the aerobic stuff was getting harder. And so it was a natural thing. And then at Worlds, I actually competed in the 1500 because I can still run a decent 1500, 454. It's not slow. But during the race, I just bonked again at 1K and left the race. And our USATF director comes up to me and he goes, "Christina, I need to tell you something. You are not a 1500 meter runner." I'm like, "You are absolutely right." I was like, "It's just what I needed to hear." And I talked to my coach about it. He goes, "I've been waiting for you to say, I want to come back to the 400. And he just wanted me to make that decision on my own. And I think it was tough at first because I ran it in college and I was very successful. 55.1 was my PR. And I think I was like, I just wanted to leave it in college and focus on something else. But now I feel like I've gotten over that. And college athlete was a different athlete. I'm a different person now and I have new goals. And so I was like, all right, let's go back to the 400. I might not run 55.1, but that's okay. I'm going to keep trying to get faster. And I'm enjoying it so much more than mile training, so much more. So it's good to be back. And it was just a natural thing. And I think a lot of it was the speed work and the weight training. My body is just more natural of a sprinter than it is an aerobic athlete. And the aerobic stuff was just getting harder and harder. No matter how hard I was trying, it was just getting more difficult.
Yeah, fair enough. And like I said, I certainly can empathize with that mindset. I don't like doing the long distance stuff. I'm 250 pounds too. So it doesn't bode too well for that. So I prefer sprinting myself. Have there been so outside of your athletic, we talked about your athletic performance, switching from carnivore from other diets, any other sort of other benefits that you've noticed or negatives? Have there been any negatives or positives outside of just the athletic performance?
I honestly cannot think of any negatives because I feel so great all the time. My sleep quality is wonderful. Everything. I feel younger and more powerful and more alert and just more full of life than I did when I was in my 20s. And so I honestly can't think of a negative besides the fact of sometimes, man, I really want to eat a pizza or something. There's just those random moments where I'm like, oh, I miss pizza, but it's very easy for me to work through that because I know how good I feel on a carnivore diet. So it's easy to pick the foods that I feel good on because as soon as I eat some potato chips or something, I immediately have heartburn and I don't feel good. So I'm like, it's not even worth it. It tastes good for a couple seconds and then I feel miserable for 2 hours afterwards. So it's just not worth it. And I'm thriving and it doesn't feel like a lot of work either. It's easy. I only have to eat a couple times a day and I feel satiated and fueled and feel great. And I feel like, with maturity and aging, just being able to listen to your body and just knowing that it's telling you I feel wonderful and I'm thriving. It's just an easy decision.
Yeah, fair enough. And then you said you got a supportive husband and then I think you said 3 little kiddos. How does the diet work within the family? They're probably not all on carnivore, or maybe they are. I don't know. How do you guys do as a family? And is that challenging for you?
Yeah. So Tyler is carnivore completely, my husband. And he's just more of, okay, whatever we have in the house, I'm going to eat it. And he's always loved meat. And so it's never been, it was not a tough adjustment for him. And he thrives on it as well. Because sometimes he might, with his schedule, he might only get to the gym 2 to 3 times a week. And you look at him and it looks like he works out every day. He's a pretty big guy. He's 213 pounds at 6'1", and he's all muscle. So the diet it's super cool to see with him how much muscle he holds on to without being able to weight train as often as he would like. He just holds muscle and he loves it. He thrives off of it. He generally maybe only eats 2 times a day. And so he loves that too. And then my kiddos, they eat red meat every single day. I'll give them a little bit more flexibility. Like we have no cereal in the house. I refuse to let them have cereal. So they eat eggs every morning, or sausage is what they have, or a protein yogurt with prime protein in it. So they have a good protein-rich breakfast every single day, and I'm non-negotiable about that. And then for lunch, sometimes I'll make them a peanut butter sandwich or a big old roast beef sandwich or something like that. But generally, they're eating meat with every single meal. They're definitely having protein with every meal, but we are an animal-focused family, and they know that. And I think the big thing for parents, if there's other parents on here listening, and what you could do is at the dinner table, we always have a discussion. If we're eating steak or a hamburger, or like a hamburger casserole where I just do like cheese and meat, we talk about, okay, when we're eating this, it's making me strong, and we'll like flex, like it's making me strong. It's giving me muscles, and it's helping my brain be smart and grow. And so we really make it about, this food is nourishing us and it's helping us be the best humans we can be, versus not making it an aesthetics thing. Oh, it's going to keep me from gaining weight or whatever. We just talk about what's making me strong. It's making me smart. These foods are good for my body, and it's exactly what my body needs. We have those discussions probably 4 to 5 times a week. And my 6-year-old will take a bite of her beef and go, it's making me strong. And she'll say those things. And I think that's a good way as parents that you can just keep putting meat into your kids' diet and explain to them the benefits of it just at their level that they understand.
Yeah, I've had many of those discussions with my kids, and I tell you, this is why you eat this way. This is what the benefits are. Just so they're aware of the nutrition, because I think many adults have no idea what they're doing, what they're eating, and what it does to them, and certainly their kids don't. And so they have this. It tastes good is all they care about. It tastes good. So and there's some problems with foods that taste good. As far as you rediscovered athleticism, or athletics after having the kids, is this something you plan to continue with indefinitely, or you like, or is there I want to do it for 5 years, I'm going to hang it up, or just leaving it open at this point?
Honestly, I'm enjoying it so much. It doesn't feel like work. It doesn't mean that every day I'm motivated, because that's one thing I tell people. That's why discipline is so important, and consistency, because there might be a day where I don't feel like going out and running 300s. And so there are days where the motivation wavers, but then as soon as I'm out on that track and I'm doing it, it's more of a gratitude thing. Like, I can do this, and it's incredible. And I love being able to push my body and still have goals at my age and be competitive. So I don't foresee me stopping unless there is some major reason for me to stop. But I see a lot of inspiring athletes that are older than me, in their 40s and their 50s, and they're still hitting incredible times in the sprints. And they're just living life. They're loving life. They're thriving. And I'm enjoying it so much, enjoying the community so much, that I'm hoping I can just keep getting faster. There's no reason why I can't. I've seen women get faster into their 40s. It's incredible. So I'm just going to keep pushing that threshold and see where my body can take me. It's exciting.
Yeah, you mentioned Cynthia, and I think she actually said she had run better times in her 40s than she ran in college, which is pretty darn incredible if you think about it. And so maybe, who knows, maybe with enough training and strength training and time on the track, maybe you start pushing into those 55s again, and maybe even down from that. That would be pretty amazing. So I know, because my 15-year-old daughter, I think her best time so far is 58. So I'm excited about that, because I think she can get down to something hopefully in the mid 50s or even lower. And she eats a lot of meat. She's not 100% carnivore. The discussion I have with her is, hey, make sure you're getting enough protein. And she's about 130 pounds. I said, you need to get at least 130 plus grams of protein in you a day. And I think that's a good lesson for any athlete, particularly women, because women tend to under protein in many cases. As far as, outside of Obviously, you're doing the workouts, the weight workouts. You said your sleep is great. Are there any other habits that you're doing that you think are benefiting you from either a health standpoint or from a recovery standpoint or from a just general health standpoint?
Yeah, sleep is obviously the biggest priority. So I get 8 to 9 hours every night. I notice when I dip under that, I start to not recover as well. So that's my sweet spot, is sleep. And then I would also say I work mobility pretty consistently. I'll do mobility work 2 to 3 times a week. And that just might be like a 10-minute mobility routine. For runners, it's a lot of hip stuff, making sure your hips are mobile and strong. So I'll do a lot of hip mobility. And then I also keep my feet strong. That's another, I strength train barefoot. So I do all my deadlifting barefoot. I do all my front squatting barefoot. And then all my accessory work is barefoot. And so I would say, because you see a lot of runners, you see those super shoes. I don't know if you've seen those, are just huge with the carbon plates in them and tons of cushion. But I think a lot of people that are running miles in those and doing workouts in those, their feet just become super weak and issues go up the chain from that. And so I'll do a lot of even explosive stuff, jumps barefoot. And so my feet are so much stronger now than they were in college. And I wear ultras, like really skinny ultras to train in. And so not a lot of people are like, how are you doing that with no foot cushioning? Like, my feet are strong. My feet can handle it. And I feel like that's been hugely beneficial for me as well from like an injury standpoint, because you see a lot of Achilles tendonitis and plantar fasciitis in runners. And I have had zero issues with those things. And I think a lot of that is because of the attention I put on my feet and keeping my feet strong. I walk around barefoot all day, or I wear minimalist type shoes when I go out and I'm just out and about. So that's been another thing that's been helpful.
Interesting. And as far as running, I think with the 400, you're putting spikes on. I don't know about the 800 you would track spikes as well. I can't.
Yep. And track spikes are, they're not my favorite thing in the world because they pinch your toes like this. And I wear wide toe boxes to train in, and I'm barefoot. And so it's not ideal. They haven't really made a wide toe box track spike yet, but ultra, you guys should get on that. But I do wear spikes. But the nice thing about spikes is they're very minimalist. And so for me, it's an easy transition going from my training shoes into track spikes. Whereas a lot of people struggle. They can't really do reps in track spikes because they're super thin, but I can handle doing reps and spikes and working on blocks and stuff like that in my spikes because I'm so used to being barefoot and all the barefoot training I do. But yeah, we wear spikes for the 8. They look a little different than sprint spikes. Are very stiff and they have more force off of the track. Whereas a mid-distance spike is a little bit more comfort just because you're running longer, obviously.
And do you start the 800 out of blocks or not? I can't remember. I think it's
maybe standing start. Yeah, which is, the 8's fun because you have to be fast. You have to be fast off that line and you don't get to use blocks. So I do feel like the 400 training that I've been doing has really helped me in the 800 the last couple months. I've noticed that I'm way more explosive off the line. I can get myself in a good position because the 800 you run as a pack. And so you have to be aggressive and protect your space. And so the faster you are, the more beneficial it is in the 8. So I do feel like my 400 training has really helped the 8.
Yeah, but I guess ultimately you're going to transit. Maybe you think you'll still run the 800 indefinitely, or are you going to focus more for 200, something like that? Yeah,
that's an interesting discussion I'm having with my coach right now because it's tough because the 4 and the 8 are both extremely demanding events. He calls them acid baths because that's what they feel like. But honestly, I feel like my 4 is benefiting my 8. I don't know if my 800 is benefiting my 400 though. And that's the issue. My one struggle right now is getting my top end speed back just because I haven't top end speed raced in 10 years. And so that 200 time needs to come down to help my 400. So he's really focusing me more on the 400 this summer. And then next year will be an outdoor worlds year. And so we're going to decide, all right, are we going to run both the 8 and the 4? Or are we just going to focus on the 4? It'll be interesting to see where my speed is at, like January, February, how much speed I've gained. Because I truly think I can just keep getting faster. In college, I ran a 24.9 in the 200. And right now I'm only hitting like 27. And so that top end speed definitely needs to come back, and I need to keep working on that aspect of it. So we'll see where my 800 is with that training. But right now I'm really determined to get faster. So that's the focus.
And you said, I think correct me if I think I heard at the beginning, you said you're getting ready for nationals coming up in shortly.
Yeah, it's this week. Yeah. So I fly out to Greensboro on Thursday morning. So I'm running the 400 first, and then I'll run the 800 after. So I'm hoping I can dip down into the 58s. I feel ready. So hopefully I can just get out there and do it. I've got good competitions. We'll see where my 400 is at this week. Exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And that national, is that necessary for team selection and things like that? Or is it just another meet how do you qualify for the U.S. team to go to Worlds?
Yeah. So for actually any master, if you're interested in going with Team USA, you can, but they do give stipends based off of if you're a medal contender or not. So they look at your times, and you can post those times anytime throughout the year. So it doesn't have to be done at nationals, but nationals is definitely it gives the USATF directors a view of, okay, this is how you're competing at a high level. And it really helps with like relay selection and stuff like that at Worlds, is just how you do at nationals. But the nice thing is you can hit your times throughout the year. So I run in a lot of college meets. I just feel like it's the best competition. And luckily the local colleges are really cool. Like University of Nebraska lets me in for free, and I get to compete with the college athletes. And I've built some cool relationships with them too. They call me mom. So they're like, mom's here. And so it's cool to be able to race them. And usually a lot of my best times come from racing collegiates, because they're such a high level. They're competing so well. And so I can use those times to help for world selection and stuff like that as well. But yeah, nationals is still really good competition. We have a lot of very talented athletes in the US in the different age groups.
So do you have a prediction on, you think you can win that, or where do you think you're going to be at nationals? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the 400 is going to be tough. I have a really good, and we're good friends. Her name's Christina as well. She runs a 55.9 at 39 years old. So she's pretty incredible. And we've been talking a lot because we want to team up on some relays in the winter and hopefully go after a world record in the 35 to 39 age group. So we've been talking a lot, but she's probably the favorite. I'm hoping I can sneak in a runner-up position in the 400, which I'd be pretty happy with, judging that I've only been training for the 400 for about 4 months. So I'd be happy if I could dip my time down into the 58s and get a runner-up position. And then I'm hoping to defend my national title in the 800. So hopefully I should win it.
Very good. Now, good luck to you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
We have just a couple of minutes left, Christina. Thank you for being here. Anything else you want to share that we didn't get to discuss?
Yeah, I think we covered pretty much everything. And yeah, I don't know if you remember, but I'm a health teacher and a high school health teacher. So I've been trying to push the truths about nutrition within the high school as well. And so I'm really looking forward to continuing because I have a lot of high school kids that ask me about my diet and what are you eating? And okay, steak, I'll eat more steak, Mrs. Elder. And so it's pretty cool to be able to be influential within that space as well as a teacher and a coach. But yeah, we covered that a lot last time we talked too. So
awesome. Good for you, and good to keep up the good work. And we'll just have to let us know how you do, and we'll see. I'm sure you'll post it on social media, because I see your stuff in my little Instagram feed. Social media. What are your social media handles for people that want to follow this?
Yeah, on Instagram, it's pretty easy. It's just Christina_Elder. Very active on Instagram, definitely Instagram stories. Try to talk a lot about my training and my diet and just my lifestyle in general of being a mom and incorporating good nutrition with my kids. And then I'm active on Facebook too. So I like new Facebook friends, and that's just Christina Elder. But those are my two most active platforms right now.
All right, perfect. Well, you guys go check that out. And two things. So for you, at least, meat by itself was superior to meat plus fruit. That's interesting to see, particularly as an athlete. And then good luck on the upcoming competitions. And I suspect you're going to get faster. I think with enough training, but there's no reason not to. So awesome.
I know it'll be a fun journey to watch. Can't wait to see. It'll be cool to say, hey, at 36 years old, you can just keep getting faster and hopefully dip into those, mid 50s is the hope, and be pretty cool to see myself do that. And I'm not putting a hold on myself and saying it's not possible. So we'll see where it goes. I'm excited.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing your story with us, Christina. And For the rest of the folks, thanks for being here. We'll be back again tomorrow. Hopefully my voice will be less less raspy. I'm going to go get choked out here in a few minutes anyway. I
don't know. Jiu-jitsu sounds harder than track.
Depends. It's different for sure. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye,
Dr.
Christina.
Baker.